Hey, friend. So good to see you. Happy Wednesday. I hope that your week is starting off strong and that things are going your way and that you feel lots of forward momentum. I feel a lot of forward momentum because boy, oh boy, do we have a powerhouse group of people joining us in the chat today. It depends on what side of the computer your chat's on. So either way I point, I win. So big hi to Giacomo and Jen and Jacqueline and Kelly and David. Just wow, we got a lot of smart people in the room with us. And if it's your first time here, a big hello to you too. I would love for you to say hi to us in the chat. You might be used to joining one of these things where you kind of just don't talk. You kind of just sit back, relax, and take in the goodness. You can do that. Jay and I will chitty chat, and you can. I have so many questions for her; they're endless. But it's just not as fun it's more fun when you kind of lean in, you type on those fingers, and you get involved as well. If you are joining us by listening on your favorite podcast network while you do the dishes or fold the laundry, don't feel like you can't join in the conversation too. We would love to hear your follow-up questions or any comments or things that you have going on. We're here for it. We're here for it. So if you have something that you want to share, just know afterwards you can still share that as well. So, hi to Emily. I'm so excited to see you. We got a lot of new faces in here today. So, I'm excited to see a Kendall from Nigeria. Wow, amazing that you are joining us. I know you're super busy. So, thank you for taking the time. We really appreciate it. And I don't know about you, but it feels like the last couple of weeks, January just felt long. I don't know. January felt like 1,000 years. And in the same second, somebody told me that something was due on February 10th yesterday. And I thought, February 10th, no problem. And then I realized, wait a minute, February 10th is next week. So it is a weird movement of time. January felt like 1,000 years, and yet the year is going by quickly. So I don't know if that's also happening for you. And I don't know if it's just because January was so packed full of just, I mean, I can only speak for here in the United States. You'll have to let me know, Kindle, with, Nigeria. But here in the United States, it was just like cuckoo bananas. I don't know, guys. The fires in California, the crash in DC with the plane and the helicopter. It just felt like every week it was like a new, like, punch in the face, or I don't know, it just felt like complete uh, chaos. At least that's what it felt like for me. And so I was quite happy that just a few weeks ago when I was, doing some perusing on the weekend in the LinkedIn Learning Library, as I do, I stumbled across a new course that had come out, and it was called Finding Energy and Optimism During Difficult Times. And I watched it, and boy, between the fires and the crash, did I feel like I needed it because there was a lot of chaos it felt like going on, not only just in my life, but just in the world. And I thought, yeah, finding some optimism would not be such a bad idea right now with something like this. And so I went down the rabbit hole of all things Jay. That's who made the course on LinkedIn that I had checked out. And I just was really pleasantly like surprised and learned so much, not only just with the more tactile teaching that she does, but really just leveraging your nervous system, like really getting your body and your brain kind of on the same page, working together to be your best self, not only in work, but in relationships, personal relationships, work relationships, the relationships that really matter the most in your life. And that to me, I feel like was really something that resonated. And I felt, I just, when you just kind of, you feel something, I felt it. So I thought, okay, if I'm resonating with this, there's a chances that you are also resonating with this. So lucky for us, Jay is joining us today. I'm so excited for you to meet her. Hopefully you've done your Google stalking. If not, we will have her do a little brief intro for us. But really, really, really just want you to be able to lean in and absorb as much goodness as you can during this time that we have together. So, will you help me in raising your glass and welcoming Jay to our coffee chat?
Cheers.
So good
And
to see you.
it's really good to meet you after some mutual Google stalking, it sounds
You,
like.
the Google stalking is fun for me. What can I say?
So good. So happy to be here. And I have to say to the people in the comments, I didn't see where I could comment back. So hello to all the new people to me. And there's some people on here that I know and someone I haven't seen in forever. So hello, Maddie Kaiser. Oh my God. I had to say that before we got started. I got really distracted by all the people. And so happy you're all here.
Oh, I love it. And I want to echo what Emily is saying, which is, this event feels like it's coming at the right time. And I'm wondering, Jay, I mean, obviously, I feel like your work is pertinent no matter where you are. If you're saying, I don't relate to anything that Kim just said, my year has started off with sunshine and rainbows. There's still stuff that they can do to make their life better. But have you felt like when people are in this period of feeling like, that your work just kind of shines that much brighter?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, to be honest, if we roll it back 5 years, 2020 was when my work really took off because all of a sudden people really got everything that we think of as, up is up, down is down wasn't happening anymore. And that's going to impact your nervous system in a quick way, in a huge way. And it wasn't just the big stuff, it was all the little stuff. And I think that's what's true, like what you were just saying now, even if you're not in the United States or close to the fires or something like that, and your life has been going well, it doesn't mean that you haven't had that like weird exchange with your neighbor where they said something rude and you're like, what? And even those moments, there's the flip, there's the whoosh of emotion, and that can stick with us even if it feels inconsequential. It can stick with us in a way that impacts the way we show up in our work and the way we show up with our loved ones. And so, yes, to your question, it's funny when people see my LinkedIn courses, like I have one on managing your emotions at work, and I have this one on navigating difficult times. Almost everybody's first response is, I need that. And I'm like, yeah, because you're a human being. Everybody needs this stuff all the time.
All the time. And I'm curious what your thoughts are because I feel like I will just start off by saying I feel like something that we're all told from a really young age is kind of like, when you show up to work, put your feelings in a box, leave your box at the door, or reverse, okay, when you're coming home, leave your problems at work. And when you walk in the door, I don't know, it reminds me of Men in Black when they had a little red thing that would kind of zoom in and you'd forget everything. Like,
Right.
I mean, how your nervous system is your nervous system, whether you are at work or at home or, talking to your boss or talking to your partner. Like, how do you think about that? Do you think about it as a stark cutoff between kind of work life and personal life?
Oh, I wish that worked. I mean, I wish we had the little laser thing because it doesn't work. There's no way to do that, especially if you have any interest in being authentic or, really having that sense of being your full self no matter what. And like, yes, do we have personas at work that are not who we are around our family? For sure. But if you want to be, like feel yourself and be at your best, you have to be in your body. And if you're in your body, you're gonna be feeling the feels. You're gonna be influenced by your nervous system. You're gonna have all your insecurities and all your stuff. Like years and years ago, the woman who's on the call that I met, that I called out, Maddie Kaiser, she was a student of mine when I taught yoga. And, talking about teaching yoga and like, you can't just come in and all of a sudden be calm and cool, collected. I was in my 20s when I was teaching yoga and I was like insecure as heck. And that showed up with me. And unless I knew how to deal with it in the moment, it took over. And it sometimes did in the same way that it still does. And I'm 45 years old and doing the work that I'm doing now. Like if you're a human being out there, it doesn't matter how expert you are at what you do, you're still going to come up with insecurity. You're still going to come up with days where you're grieving something that's happening outside of your workplace. That it's like, I often think of it as like you have on a layer of clothing that is what you're feeling, and you can work in that clothing, but it's there. You're feeling it.
You're feeling it. And if you're going into a situation where maybe it could be anything, maybe it's a client meeting, maybe it's a pitch, maybe it's a, business review or whatever it is, and you know that you're not in the best headspace, or you think you're in a good headspace, but you want to try to get into a greater headspace. What's like one or two kind of quick hits? I know it's not, a problem solver for everything. It's kind of like a band-aid on a bullet hole because you know that there's more work to do. But if you're kind of in a pinch, what's like one or two quick things that somebody could do to kind of, I don't know, I don't want to say fix how they're feeling, but make the situation a little bit better for themselves?
Shift, yeah. Like, get there is how I would say. Like, get back into your body where you. So, two things that come to mind. First thing is dealing with the physicality of whatever the experience is, right? You had mentioned in the post to this the 90-second rule, and that's Jill Bolte Taylor's work on when you have an external situation happen to you that you have a reaction to. There's a 90-second chemical reaction in your body where you have the feels. That's the rush, that's the whoosh, that's the wave that comes over you. Or it's once that 90 seconds has passed, it's the way you're still holding on to the upset, the fear, the sadness. So the first thing you need to do is something that addresses the physicality. Like, I'm a shaker. Like, if I'm about to go into a meeting or come onto a podcast where I got the nerves, I shake my hands, shake my body. Again, it seems so little, like what you're saying, but if you don't shake and you come in rigid, that's not helpful. So doing something in your physicality to shift the energy is one thing. And the second thing is the emotional piece. I saw someone say in the comments that, saying, yes, we are human beings. We are feeling beings, not thinking beings first. But we've tended to forget that. And one of the best things you can do if there's a feeling that comes up is to put your hand on your heart and say, that makes sense that I feel that way. You just took a deep breath when I said that. And that is typically the response that happens, because if, like, let's say you're going into the big meeting and you're nervous and you're tense. So you've done the shaking to get rid of the tense feeling. And then you say to yourself, it makes sense that I'm nervous. Of course I'm nervous. This is important to me. I want to do well. Like, and you get to use your mind to say to yourself, this feeling that's here, there's a reason why, because we tend to ignore it. We tend to tell ourselves we're silly or sensitive or wrong for having the feeling. And none of those things help keep doing that fragments yourself. And the more fragmented you are, the less whole you are. And the less whole you are, the less resourced you feel to do the hard stuff. So just saying, it makes sense to me that I'm scared. Then you're there with yourself at least.
And you're just really feeling it. You're letting it sink in.
You're letting it be there without needing it to take over. Because that's the thing. Most people are scared of their emotions because the only time they really feel them is when it's the whoosh, that 90-second chemical wave that you get stuck in. And that's not the only way emotions show up. You can say, this makes sense that I feel this, and still feel your hand on your heart. And like right now, my hands are cold. So I notice like my hand is cold up against the temperature of my chest. And like, that's real too. So there's I'm nervous, but there's also, I'm here in a body in this moment. I'm safe in my room. Like, it's being able to add layers to your experience, because in that 90-second chemical whoosh that we have, or the moments where we're feeling emotional, it feels like that's the only thing happening. And that's what trips us up. I mean, is anyone else? I'm like looking out there. Does this make sense? Like when you're having the feels, doesn't it feel like that is the only, you kind of get that like brain fog. You go to that place where you're like, I don't even know what to say. Yeah. Okay. So I'm not the only one that feels that.
No, I'm nodding along because I'm like, yes, that is me. That is something that, and I think also it's that heightened, you're in a situation where you have to kind of either perform or okay, I got to be on, and you kind of have these two things that are warring. Or if you're going through a difficult time and you think, well, I don't want to bring my emotional baggage with me. I got to be happy. So that, so you're kind of you're dealing with these contrasts that I think are very incongruent with each other.
Right, and that's that fragmentation again. Like when you're trying to explain something away or separate it out, it puts you in this place where you're not fully there. And I saw that Shelby said 90 seconds seems like a long time when you're having the big feels, and it does. And if you understand that you can have a big feel and it doesn't wipe you out, meaning like literally take you out of your brain, take you out of your capacity to show up, like, I'm a somatic coach. And if people don't know what that means, soma means the body. It refers to the body. So a lot of what I help people do is train in their body to feel that, yes, this big feeling is happening, or yes, this nervousness or this sadness is happening. And there are other layers to my experience in this moment that I can use to kind of be a container for that. So it's not the whole experience anymore. And that is what makes the 90 seconds pass in such a way that you haven't lost yourself. Like you're still feeling that you can feel your toes wiggle in your shoes. Like, and that's a neutral feeling. That's not happening to you. It's not, something that you don't know how to handle, but it is like, this is true. This is also true.
Well, and I'm curious because you've had the unique position that you've taught groups, you've taught individuals, you've taught people that are kind of all different sizes, all different spaces, work, more to your point, yoga, more like personal time. What do you think is the biggest, I don't know if the word is red flag or the biggest thing that you see in someone that you can be like, ooh, like that's something that I want to dig into with you?
Oh, what a good question. So like while I'm working with someone, what I'm doing is I'm watching to see if what their body is telling me is the same thing as what's coming out of their mouth. It's like I'm looking for mixed messages, because what we say and how we present ourselves, like if I'm like, I'm really excited to be here, um, not not totally true. And the reason why I'm looking for those mixed messages between what someone's saying and what their body is saying is because that's an indication that there's that fragmentation, the disconnect. That's a sign that they're in their head and they're not fully embodied. And my job is to help people bring their head and their body together, because neuroscience tells us that when you have embodied self-awareness, not just conceptual self-awareness, like conceptual self-awareness is I'm thinking about me, I'm analyzing the situation. But when I have embodied self-awareness and I can feel what's the temperature of the room I'm in, where are my pants pressing into my waistline, what did my tea just taste like, all these things that tell me what's my experience in my body in that moment, that's when we have access in our brain to things like emotional regulation, empathy, the ability to be more creative, like all of these things that we think of as like, this is you as a human being at your best. They don't come from being smart. They don't come from thinking. And I know, like, us overachievers out there in the world are like, what do you mean I can't get smarter and do better? It's like, no, this is about, can I feel you? Can your clients feel you? Can your colleagues feel you? Can you feel you? Because if you can't feel you and you're doing that thing where you're saying, I'm really excited to be here, then you're not having the impact you want to have.
Totally. And I think Carolyn makes a great point here that, it's awareness, not necessarily attachment to something, and not identifying with whatever it is that might be. And I also really love Giacomo's question here, which is, if you feel like, okay, I have a bright spark, I feel like I have good energy, I feel it in my body, how do I keep that going? Or knowing that, the rest of the week or the rest of the month, some difficult times might be ahead, but how do I keep that forward positivity, really? What are your best tips for like keeping that going?
Well, one is to acknowledge it when it's there. I mean, this is that thing. We have negativity bias, right? Like our brains are looking for what's bad. And when something is good, we tend to go swipe right, like, okay, that's good. Don't need to pay attention to that. So one thing is to be able to, we're here at our tea, having our tea, like to steep in when something feels good, steep in when you are shining, steep in when you do have the energy, so that it makes it real to you. I talk about taking visceral snapshots. Like if you could take a picture that had a feeling tone attached to it, take a visceral snapshot of when you are shining, so that you know it's real. And then a way to hold on to that, or a way to tap back into that, is this really simple practice of bringing to mind someone or something or some place that makes you feel that way, that makes you smile, that makes you feel joy. And to take time throughout your, like when you go pour yourself another cup of tea or coffee, take a moment, close your eyes, and feel who's that person that just makes you smile, and bring them to mind. And this isn't about escaping. This isn't about negating the hard stuff that's happening. This isn't about being a Pollyanna. This is about, again, that thing of like, this is true, this is also true. It's true that it's Wednesday in the middle of the day and I am overwhelmed and I'm stressed and I can't even imagine going home and having to clean and cook and all that stuff. It's also true that there's a beach that I love to go to. And when I close my eyes and I feel, not imagining, take me away, I can be on that beach, but feel, this is what my body feels like when I'm on that beach. I guarantee you'll take a deeper breath. I guarantee you'll have a sense of like coming down in whatever that overwhelm, or coming up from whatever that is. And it doesn't matter. This isn't about perfection. This is about giving yourself the message that you can make incremental shifts in how you feel. That if you take a moment to think of a person, place, or thing that makes you feel good, it actually makes you feel good, like a little bit better for a little bit. And then that means you just do it again. It's like the same way that you don't brush your teeth once on Monday morning and say, I'm cool until next Monday. Like these ways of our like mental wellness hygiene, you got to check in. You got to kind of feed yourself those little bites.
Well, and I love your point of not just like imagining sort of whisk me away from the situation that I'm in, almost more of a daydream. But I also love Jeff's question here, which is around visualization, because I feel like that is, I don't want to say it's a buzzy word, but I feel like as we, get into January and people are talking about goals and I'm going to meditate every day or I'm going to visualize every day, like it's definitely kind of in the zeitgeist, especially around a new year. What are your thoughts on a visualization practice?
Shocker. My response is that it has to include a feeling. Like if you're going to visualize the way something's going to go, I would visualize the way you want it to feel. So, and there's a lot of people, myself included, who don't necessarily I have a hard time doing visualizations. I have a hard time seeing movies in my head, but I have a totally easy time, because of who I am, feeling how I want to feel. I'm going to walk into this meeting. I want to feel my legs feel strong. I want to feel my spine be long. I want to feel that I'm not sweating through my shirt, right? Like, so if you're going to do the visualization and you're going to envision something, I want you to let it seep down into your body and like feel, I'm on stage and I'm speaking and my voice is resonant, not shaky. I'm on stage and I'm speaking and I'm slow. Like I can feel myself thinking and responding. Can you feel that when I'm talking? Like, so yes to visualizing, but absolutely add the component of what does it feel like?
I heard from somebody, and I think it's so true, that the best types of visualization uses all of your senses.
Yeah.
So, you had a good meeting with your boss, you're treating yourself to ice cream, you're imagining what the ice cream shop smells like when you walk in. You feel that it's a little colder when you walk in because all the refrigeration. So really, your eyes, your ears, what you're smelling, what you're tasting the ice cream, like just using all your senses when you're doing that visualization to really help bring in that that realistic quality that you're already in that future.
And I want to ask the people who are watching, because when you were just talking about the visualizing using all your senses, your body language was like this, and you were talking about the smell and the taste of ice cream. And I was like, I was there. I could feel you. And I think this is the thing. Like I am so on a mission to get interactions among people where we can feel one another, where we're not just heads, brains talking with brains, thumbs talking to thumbs, like that there's some sense that there is like, oh, there's Kim. I often say that in my sessions with clients, like when someone finally does that thing where they're like dropped in and they're resonant and they say something that does match, I'm like, oh, there you are. I feel you. And I think that's, whether we can articulate it or not, we're starving for that.
1,000%. And I'm glad you brought up sort of the relational aspect of it, because I feel like we've talked a lot so far about like the inner work that you can do, but there's, other humans in the world that you must interact with, that you must, share space with and converse with. So, when you're talking about, kind of creating this new framework or a transformational framework, how are you thinking about that to, kind of rewrite those relational patterns that you have with other people?
I am so excited that you asked this, because I've got this tool that I've been using that I used and it changed my world, my life, and it's changing the lives of the people I'm working with. And what I love about it is it's so simple. It's the tool for you if you're the person who loses yourself when you're around other people. If you're the overachiever who goes into your head and starts thinking, as soon as there's another human being around, you start thinking about, who do I need to be? How do I need to show up? What does this person need from me so that they're not uncomfortable? I mean, earlier Shelby was saying how she's like, oh, when things are overwhelming, I just want to go be in a cabin by myself. And it's like, so if you're the person who loves your relationships but feels like they are a burden because I'm just constantly trying to figure out who I need to be, the tool is the two words, hey, wait. And it might sound odd or simple, but I want you to pause for a moment and think. You're in a situation where someone just said something that kind of put you on your heels. Maybe it was a rude comment, and you're like, inside, you get that 90 seconds of chemical weirdness, and you're thinking, what do I do? You're feeling pissed, or you're feeling sad, or that whatever is happening, you go on. If you can say the two words, hey, wait, and then follow it with an I statement, can you feel it in your body? Hey, wait, like solidifies you. It puts you back into the room as opposed to going into the, or going into the, like, I'm going to just vaporize here and try to be copacetic with everything because that's my way. Hey, wait is like, okay, actually, hey, wait, I just heard you say that and that didn't land up well with me, right? Hey, wait, I actually don't agree with what you just said. Hey, wait, I could use slowing down a little bit. Could you say that again? So hey, wait is in this relational rewriting of the rules we have. if you're like me and you grew up with the rule that your job in a relationship is to make sure the other person is comfortable, you're used to never putting yourself in the room, right? Like you're used to being the malleable, who do I need to be? Or you're used to being the manipulator of like, what do I need to say to make this go the way I want it to? Hey, wait, is what's my experience? So this is why the being in your body is so important, because hey, wait, I requires you know what is true for you.
Well, and I like this idea of hey, wait as well, because it can give you a moment. So I know sometimes when especially at work, you know, when things are happening and you're in a meeting and ideas are flying around, or your boss is saying, I need these 6 things done and this thing done by Tuesday and this thing done by Wednesday. And you're kind of like drinking out of a fire hose because like there's a million things coming at you, you
In
know,
life,
giving your in life
sorry, just
or in life.
general.
Exactly. Kind of having that hey wait moment, I think is really important, and you know, kind of feeds into this question that was asked, which is really about if you have a situation that has come up at work that you kind of need a second. You need to evaluate it. Somebody's being combative, or someone said something that was negative, or, you know, to your point earlier, they said something that didn't land with you the way that they may or may not have intended it to. You know, you never know. Is this something that you could also use in that instance? Because obviously you're not going to be able to change the other person. So the only thing you can change is you.
Yes, absolutely. So, hey, wait isn't a tool to change the other person. Hey, wait is an opportunity to create a connection. And what's interesting is when I first bring this out with a client, I'm like, okay, in this situation, I want you to say, hey, wait, and then finish that statement. People get nervous about it because they feel like it's a confrontation. If you're used to being the go along to get along people pleaser, hey, wait, and just asking for a pause feels confrontational. So what I tell people though, hey, wait isn't a confrontation. It is an invitation for connection. And if you can remember that, the words that come out of your mouth, the tone that it's not like, hey, wait. It's like, hey, wait, I actually didn't get what you just said, you know, or hey, wait, I'm feeling like what you're putting out there is this. Is that what you want to be saying? You know, like this is your I want to speak to the nervous system for a second, because when your nervous system is responding, you know, that there's the chemical rush, your nervous system is going into the reaction mode, it will speed up. Everything that's fight, flight. Everything starts to feel like it speeds up internally. And then what we do with that is that we then speed up our reaction. It's like, oh, I got to get something out here that's going to fix the situation. And hey, wait, the reason why that pause is important is because most times what's necessary isn't to fix the situation, it's to understand. And that's the thing we skip over. This is one of the main relational tools that, whether it's personal or professional, that we forget. We're so trying to make something better that we forget that the first step is to understand both sides. Hey, wait, I'm not sure that I understood you. Hey, wait, I'm not sure that you're hearing me. Right? It's like, in order for it to be a relationship, both people have to be present.
Absolutely. Well, and not only present, but really focused and having a similar goal, a similar direction, a similar open line of communication, which is, you know, really what you're hoping for at the end of the day. I really love this question from Giacomo as well. You know, when it comes to being congruent with your team, or kind of rowing in the same direction, if you sit on the marketing team or the sales team, or, you know, whatever team that you might sit on, you know, really keeping everybody in the boat paddling forward at the same pace. Because I think we've all heard the saying, you're only as strong as your weakest player.
Mhm.
And I've definitely been in work settings before where it feels like I still have the hunger, or I really want to do
Yeah.
110% for this client and make it really great. And there might be somebody in the group who says, let's give it a B minus. The client will be fine with that. And like my face melts because I'm like, no, I don't want to give the client a B minus. Like I want to give the client an A plus. So in situations like that, how can you, I don't know, take a little bit of your energy and kind of plop it in somebody else?
That good question. And that is typically the response, I feel like, is like, so let's say there's 6 people on the team, right? And you want there to be this unified force and momentum. And if there's 5 people that are in that and 1 that isn't, there's this kind of desire to wash over them and be like, well, come with us. And my experience is people want to feel seen. People want to feel understood. And that 6th person who isn't on board with that energy might need you to just say, what's true for you right now? What's going on for you? What's your experience? And through being able to feel seen, feel understood, not feel manipulated, not feel like, hey, the gang's all here, come along. That's usually when they meld back into the group. So this, hey, wait, going back to that, it's establishing if there's 2 people, there's 2 realities. Hey, wait, I don't really understand your reality. Or hey, wait, I don't feel like you're acknowledging mine. Well, when you amplify that to a team of 6, there's 6 realities. There's 6 people there. And we think that it takes a lot of time to acknowledge people's experiences. And it's like, well, Nancy's not coming along. We're just going to pull her. But that actually takes more time and energy away from the momentum. To be able to have ways where you can just say, hey, wait, I want to hear from Nancy. What isn't working for you about this? Because that melds the energy back into the group again. I always say, like, does that make sense? Like, can you feel that as I say that?
Yeah, absolutely. You definitely want to hear people out. You want to hear where they're coming from. And I also think it's just a good way to continue to let everybody know that it's a space where everybody's going to be seen and noticed and understood, and really kind of get to the bottom of it. Because if that person says, well, I don't want to give 110% to this client because they were rude to me last week, and so I'm just not feeling like they deserve my full attention, now you've kind of uncovered maybe a problem that you didn't even know about, or
And
something
then you
like
as the
that.
manager can say, I can completely understand how you'd feel that way. Whereas before you're like, what the heck? Why don't you want to give 110%? Like, so, and it doesn't mean that you need everybody to be on the same page. It could be that you're like, okay, now that we understand that, we're still going to give the client 110%. Is there a way that we can shift that person's role so the fact that they have a genuine feeling that they can't do that doesn't interfere? So it's not like we need consensus at all times. It's that we need understanding of all pieces. Those are 2 different things.
Absolutely.
And I think we get confused about that in personal life and professional life, that there's that like sameness is what creates relationships. Sameness is what creates success. We can handle difference as long as we've felt seen and understood and we have the whole picture. And I mean, if there is a message that our world needs right now, it's that, right? On the larger scale, like, we don't all have to be the same to move forward, but we do have to feel like we're understood and that we've been heard and seen.
Absolutely. And I think the, hey, wait, followed by an I statement is a beautiful tool for us to kind of keep in our back pocket and use, throughout the workday, throughout, our personal lives, even just making sure that we're kind of in the room and in the conversation, both mentally and physically. But I love this question from Brendan as well, just kind of more tools in the quiver, if you will. So not only having the Hey Wait tool, but are there any others that you either use, maybe a mindfulness app or something like that, that you maybe have in addition to the Hey Wait tool that you use?
Yeah. Well, so I'm a bit of a neo-Luddite. Like if I could get rid of all technology and apps, I probably would. So I'm not the person to ask about apps, but I know that people really love mindfulness apps as the reminder of like, hey, what can you do in this moment to take 5 breaths, that sort of thing. So absolutely, mindfulness apps are really helpful. I have a whole cadre of tools that are in my LinkedIn learning courses. The one particularly on how to regulate your nervous system, that is full of tools, because what I find is that the tool that works for you might not work for me. Like taking 5 deep breaths works for some people. That's not my thing. I don't go to breath. I go to like, can I feel my feet on the ground? Can I feel my butt in the chair? And like, then I take a breath. So I find that finding the tools that work for you and you in different circumstances sometimes takes a bit of a menu. And there's a menu in my LinkedIn course on regulating your nervous system. I think there's a QR code that we can share later that has that in there. But it's what you do want is things that you can do with your eyes open in real time, right? So yes, to meditating for 20 minutes a day alone in your house with your eyes closed, but you also need tools like, I'll just give you one here, like that, rubbing your fingers together underneath the desk while you're in a meeting or at a conversation. It seems simple, but it's this message to your brain that right now I'm here in my body and this thing that's happening is pleasant and neutral. So not everything is scary and overwhelming and uncertain. This is a communication tool with your brain to help your body calm down. For some people, it's the breath, but finding the things that you can do when you're on a podcast and nobody knows you're doing them, when you're in a meeting and nobody knows, oh, right now Kim's wiggling her toes in her shoes, because that helps her to remember to take a deep breath and be here. Yeah.
It makes a big difference. And I know that you would banish all technology if you could, if you had a Harry Potter one. But are there any specific, whether it's on LinkedIn or podcasts or maybe books form, any authors or podcasters or LinkedIn learning instructors or anybody that you follow their work or that you yourself have gotten benefit from listening to or learning from?
Okay, so I wouldn't banish podcasts from my world.
Okay.
Hidden Brain. I love that podcast. Shankar Vedantam. It's on NPR. It's a great podcast that talks about like the unconscious influences of our behavior as humans and brings in the latest research about our brains and how we can understanding how we work, rewire ourselves so we can behave differently. It's always really interesting, good stories. Like someone in my field, or if you're interested in just human behavior and how to change your behavior and why you get tripped up, and even though you're smart and you know better, that's a great podcast. And then in terms of things that I like, I noticed Maddie was saying, everyone's super heightened emotionally right now. Like there's a lot of stress and fear and uncertainty and overwhelm. So I like, if I'm going to engage with something, it to be something that makes me feel delighted or awe. And so Ingrid Fettel-Lee, her work, she's written about joy and the importance of joy. And she has this newsletter that is a compendium of joy. Is that a word? Compendium? Did I use that right? It's just this list of all these joyful things to look at or things to read. And I love that. And would recommend checking out her book and her work, Ingrid Fettel-Lee, on how to bring more joy into your life. Because again, it's not about being Pollyanna. It's about like, we can't survive the lifiness of life if we don't have some ways to tap into joy.
I feel like that is huge and gives us some good recommendations to sink into, both in podcast form and just following really interesting people doing great work. We are super into homework around these parts. We're a little nerdy in that way. So if you could give all of us a homework assignment for the rest of the week, it could be to read something or do something or download something or try something. What would be a good homework assignment that you would give us?
Well, the homework I would give, I'm so much a dork. I would give lots of homework, but if you make me only give one, it would be
or two.
To try Hey Wait, to put it in a conversation. The cool thing about Hey Wait is it doesn't need a specific circumstance. Like, you don't have to be upset to use it. It could just be practicing that give and take of like, oh, what's true in this moment that if we slowed down, we could both see it together. So your homework is to look for a conversation in which, whether you need it or not, 2 or 3 minutes in, you just say, hey, wait, I want to just make sure we're seeing this the same way, or I want to, whatever that, hey, wait, I notice, hey, wait, I'd love it if, hey, wait, I feel, because this really matters when it comes to learning how to be more relational and like show up in a way that you get to show that you care, but you also don't feel burdened by your caring.
Absolutely. No, that is such good homework. And I would add on a little bit to that homework and say, if you want to share your Hey Wait moment on LinkedIn, that's a great idea for a LinkedIn post. And you could always tag Jay and I in it. And you could kind of spread the Hey Wait tool out to others in your network as well. Because I think that could be really fun and helpful.
I would love that. I love seeing the stories come back in about how it's impacting people's lives. It's been really fun. So please share your stories.
I love that. Jay, you have been such a wealth of goodness and information. Where should people keep learning from you and following you and just absorbing all of your goodness?
jmoonfields.com is my website, and they can find access to my 5 LinkedIn learning courses there, as well as apply for coaching with me, because right now, not only do I have a few spots left for paid coaching clients, I also am offering some special free coaching around Hey Wait, and this kind of idea of how do you put yourself in the room if you're used to being the person who's always feeling small and meek and one down. And so if people are interested in that, I can put a link to the application in either the show notes or on LinkedIn underneath this recording. But jmoonfields.com, you can find all the things.
Beautiful. We will definitely put it in the show notes. We will definitely add it to the chat, so you can always come back later and grab that. Jay, thank you so much for taking time to be with us today. I really appreciate it. And I know we all really appreciate it and learned so much from you. So I appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you for having me. And thank you to everyone who was here and all your great comments and questions. It was really fun to get to experience this with you.
I echo that. Thank you guys for joining us today. Your questions, your comments, your own tips and tricks were so helpful. I cannot wait to see your Hey Wait posts in real time. If this was your first time joining us, hopefully you had a great time. You can always head over to getcoffeewithkim.com and see our full schedule of all of the various coffee meetings that we're going to have in the future. And, we can do this again, and we can set it up in your calendar so that you don't forget. You just have to head over to getcoffeewithkim.com and we can keep the good times rolling. Sadly, I am traveling next week and the following week. I know, for work, so we won't have our coffee sessions, but we will start back again at the end of the month, every single Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern. So thank you guys for your time today. Jay, thank you. And we'll see you guys soon. Thanks so much.